Nini everyone, Zabora here. So just to get a little rambling out of the way, couple things. So of course I bought more incense because it's just what I do. If I have less than 1,000 sticks, I don't have enough incense. The next thing is I've got a couple more books. This one is the Voodoo Hoodoo Spellbook by Denise Alvarado, and she identifies as Cherokee and Hispanic. So I've gone a little bit through this book, but this one more focuses on the what was classified as New Orleans voodoo, which is hoodoo practiced in the hoodoo sense, but it pretty much replaces the Christian saints with the original Loa and Orishas. Denise does talk about the traditional Catholic associations, but particularly she's talking about the French area of New Orleans and how hoodoo developed and became New Orleans voodoo, which is kind of like the... It's almost like eclectic Wicca, okay? Because in traditional Wicca, you have the initiation process, which is very true of voodoo. You have to be initiated into a house, you have to be crowned, you have to become a paledro, that kind of stuff to be associated with voodoo. Not so much this one. It's a non-initiatory practice that relies heavily upon hoodoo, which is the folk practice, as well as the spirits and everything of voodoo. So the Voodoo Hoodoo Spellbook is an apt description of this book. Everything that it describes in here is described as a hoodoo practice, basically, even though they call it voodoo. But that's just the path itself. It's New Orleans voodoo. It's hoodoo with the Loa. Okay? Non-initiatory. So a review of this will be coming soon. The other thing that I got was this here, Tarot Spreads by Barbara Moore. Now, Barbara Moore, I love Barbara Moore. She's one of my favorite tarot authors. And I just thought it'd be cool to add a little bit of some different spreads to my repertoire. Just because I always seem to go back to the same 9-card spread. I don't know why. But there are a crap ton of spreads in this book. Really? Come on, turn the page. So it's like the first 3 pages here are just the amount of spreads. They're all spreads, so I thought that'd be fun to kind of go through and learn some new stuff. The next thing, these ones here, between these 2 books, because I kind of struggled with this, and if you're kind of maybe in the position of struggling with this too, between Heart of the Sun and Sekhmet When the Lion Roars, both are good books. I happen to like this one more, but there are stuff in this book that you don't find in this book that you kind of want in this book. It's hard to explain. This one's a little bit less organized than this one. This one's got an index. It's broken down into parts, testimonials, prayers, and rituals, whereas this one's just kind of hodgepodge thrown together. This stuff is more modern. This stuff has actual antique translations and hieroglyphs and things of that nature, so I do like that about this book. But this one here seems to really capture the essence of Sekhmet. Not saying that this one doesn't. I'm just saying if you're struggling between the two, this one might be the way to go if you're looking more for prayers, rituals, devotions, things of that nature. This one might be the way to go if you are looking more for historical associations with a few prayers and images and things of that nature thrown in. Okay. One last thing. Now, I did talk to Robert about this. You know what? I'm going to have to make this a damn separate video. I've gone on for like fucking 4 minutes. Great. I'm going to have to make this Rambles #1 or some shit. I have figured out how I want to use the Anubis Oracle. Now, I do take my time when I get a new divination system to getting to learn to know it. Just because of my husband kind of asked me about this when he saw me with the cards out and stuff last night. He goes, "Oh, are you using it?" I'm like, "No, not yet." He's like, "Well, why?" I'm like, "Because I'm getting to know the images. I'm getting to know the art. And I wanted time to finish reading the book. The only part about this book that I have not finished is the interpretation of the deities. And that's because in here, the authors do state to write down your own interpretation of every card that we present you and what these deities mean, in order for you to have a better understanding of what the cards are trying to tell you before you read their descriptions. So I was like, okay, I got no problem doing that. These are the two books I'm going to use to do that. The first is Egyptian Mythology, A Guide to the Gods, Goddesses, and Traditions of Ancient Egypt by Geraldina Pinch. And that should kind of keep it more historically accurate in order to cross-reference this book, which is the primary book that I will be using, which is Celebrating the Egyptian Gods by Sharon Laborde, author of Following the Sun and Circle of the Sun, which are the two books you should get if you're a starting baby Egyptology Kemetic-y type person. Kemetic reform person? I don't know. Baby Kemetic, baby Egypt pagan, however you want to say that. And then, of course, this is my autographed copy to Zabora. So, or thanks, Zabora. So, these are the two books that I will be using in order to cross-reference, like, Amun-Ra, and who I interpret as Wepoet, and they interpret as Anubis. But again, I kind of am okay with that because they explain if there's both a dark and a light aspect of the cards and reversing's and all that. So these are the two books I'm going to be using to kind of discern the cards, and I'm going to be actually starting a journal and going through the full process of learning a new divination tool. And I kind of think that maybe the tarot book here might help me with pulling out some new types of spreads here. They only include like 8, I think, 8 spreads or something like that in their thing. So who knows? Maybe I might be able to pull out some different spreads based on the major arcana, because that's what this oracle is based off of, is the major arcana. So there's 7 minutes of rambling. The very next video I'm going to be talking about a Facebook question that I had. So that is it for tonight, guys. Synaptic.